This is DC, powered by people and ideas, where the community comes together, voices are heard, and decisions are shaped.
So I want to start by saying, welcome home.
Connecting you to what matters and to each other.
How you doing? You know, what's the tea?
I'm Lorenzo Hall, and this is the DC Beat. And welcome into the DC Beat. I'm Lorenzo Hall. Right now, a lot of our neighbors are talking about the city's juvenile curfew and the plans to help young people. So for the past 3 weekends, we have seen chaotic moments like this here, even as community groups and city agencies try to find alternatives to keep kids busy. There's urgency as we head into yet another weekend, and spring break is next week. Last weekend, there was an event put on by the DC Department of Parks and Rec, a fun, safe event, but a small group disrupted that peace. Here's what parents and neighbors told us about it.
I was out here trying to find my child, but the streets were packed. So it was no way. And then she was inside, thank God.
Fighting in the street, in the middle of the street, they just jumped off the bikes and, just started fighting.
It make me feel like, okay, I got to either be in my house or don't be nowhere walking because you don't know what's going to happen because too many different kids down here. They walk around with the hoodies on and masks on their face, so you don't know who is who.
The inside was actually secure. That's where my friend's sister was at. They actually had fun in there. They played music for the kids, gave them food and stuff. But it was just like the outside area, just kids doing stuff they had no business.
All right, so we're all asking at this point, what is next? The city has a long list of events planned for next week, from a pop-up indoor amusement park to a field day. The DC Council will also be looking to make the juvenile curfew zone legislation permanent. They're taking it up tomorrow in the Public Safety Committee. So, of course, we're going to be tracking that, but we know this is a deep-seated issue. There is no one answer. There's a debate happening online, a lot of finger pointing, and neighbors giving us genuine advice and additional perspective. One is Nicholas Young, a licensed therapist who works with children in D.C., and he also serves as young adult minister at New Bethel Baptist Church in D.C. He's at the table tonight, but first, listen to some of what he had to say.
When y'all think of outlets as adults, y'all are literally old. Your age is slipping. Like when y'all think of outlets, y'all are like, oh, social program. Let's teach them how to garden. Let's teach them how to build an apartment building for seniors, or like, yeah, that stuff is cool, but it ain't fun.
All right, Nicholas, thanks for being here with us. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Hall.
All right, so I know this sounds funny, but it's not. But you talk about these social programs and outlets for kids, and we heard you talking about building apartment buildings for seniors and learning how to garden, and how those really just don't stick with teens.
Right. The programs are great. I think that teens love them. The teens I work with love them. Mm-hmm. I also think that they're not necessarily the most fun thing that a teenager could think that they want to do with their free time.
Yeah. So what do you do? And what do you suggest in terms of finding out or realizing what teens actually enjoy?
When I listen to what teens are telling me, they want to have what sounds like to us to be a third space. They want a third space where it's not about productivity, where it's not about learning, where it's not about them becoming developed as a person. They just want a space where they can be. It's not about them being a human doing. They just want to be human beings.
Yeah, just enjoy their free time. Be kids,
Absolutely.
Essentially, but still be protected at the same time, I
Absolutely.
take it. Yeah, another point that you mentioned that I don't think a lot of folks think about is you say they're stressed, just like us. So based on your work, what does that look like? How are teens so stressed right now?
Well, I mean, I particularly work with Black boys, and they are actually the most likely to commit suicide unlike any other time in history. Our young people across all boards are increased levels of anxiety, increased levels of depression. They're also feeling the weight of our economy. They're witnessing the ways in which we're engaged in warfare, and these things impact them just like they impact adults.
Yeah, so how do you help them cope? I mean, as adults try to figure out solutions, there has to be some way to also help them cope with a lot of these issues. This is concerning.
Right. One of the greatest things that I've found as a therapist that works with teens is that they need community. They need to be around people. They need to have touch. They need to have fun. They need to be around somebody that looks at them and says, I love you. And so we're invested in creating and fostering environments and where they're with their peers, where they're having a good time, whether that be sports, whether that be them going out and just having a good time, whether that be them gardening with their.
If that's what they like,
if that's what they enjoy, right?
So what about this whole argument? You hear people say it all the time. Anytime we talk about this convo regarding teens and them saying they don't have anything to do, you're going to get that one comment or two or three or four that say, "Where are the parents? Where are the parents?" What do you make of that whole argument?
It's an interesting comment that when we're thinking about youth, we tend to lump them all together. So as adults who may not have children or may not be around children, we think of a 12-year-old in the same way we think of a 16-year-old, and we also forget how we were when we were 16 years old. A 16-year-old doesn't want to be up around mom and dad or uncle or grandma. Like it's not what's on the 16-year-old's mind.
Right.
So I think when we say where are the parents, we have to realize that teenagers in every single generation that has ever existed have wanted to do adult things. That is a part of being a teenager. They want to be by themselves. They want to have fun. They want to be outside. They want to have a good time. So where their parents are probably having a hard time getting them to talk to them.
Yeah. So what do you tell city leaders? What do you tell parents who are watching? You see these images play out over and over again. You go into the weekend and you end up seeing this chaos. When you look at that, what are you saying to yourself? Hey, this is the solution. We need to do X.
I say to our leaders that, one, we have to listen to the youth. We can tend to be an echo chamber when we talk amongst each other about what teens are doing. We need to either talk to the youth, or if you're not talking to the youth, you need to talk to people who are with the youth. Listen to their actual voices. And after you're listening to their voices, you're going to see that we need to have consistent third spaces where they are not human doings, they are human beings, where they can just exist, they can flirt with somebody they may think is cute, they can have fun, they can have a good time. Those are things we actually
Mom and
need.
Dad they don't want to hear that.
Yeah, right.
And finally for you, we see these images, and what I worry about is we have these images of teens in DC. They're all lumped together. Oh, the kids in DC are so bad. I'm afraid to walk by that teen because who knows what's going to happen. Seeing these images, what does that do to us as a community?
I think it has a very damning effect on the ways in which we see our youth. We tend to criminalize them and to think that they're up to malevolent behavior, but the reality is most youth are good kids. They're going to school, they're trying to be good with their families, and they're doing this under very intense national circumstances. They live in Washington, D.C. They see the National Guard walking through their street. Most kids I walk by, when I'm minding my business, they're respectful, they're minding their business too. It's important that we do not associate one video with every teen we see in the area.
Yeah, all right. Nicholas Young, grateful for your perspective.
Thank you.
All right, so a lot of our neighbors are still sounding off about Cedar Hill Regional Medical Center. It's been open for a year, and let me just say there have been a lot of problems. Earlier this week, the D.C. Council questioned hospital and city leaders. During the hearing, council members talked about patients being turned away along with lengthy wait times. Council members claim a patient was admitted for an appendectomy but had an ovary removed instead. The deputy mayor for Health and Human Services is urging the council and public to be patient, saying the new hospital needs time to stabilize, and says staffing issues are being resolved. And we are still waiting to see if Mayor Bowser signs off on an emergency bill passed by the D.C. Council last week to make sure Pepco doesn't turn off your electricity for at least 90 days if you owe $1,000 or less. So we know the bill was introduced by Ward 4 Council member Janice Lewis-George, who is also running for mayor. She cited the more than 100,000 D.C. residents who have past due bills right now and questions about Pepco's rate hikes. Mayor Bowser called the move bad policy.
What did I do?
Yeah, that is Philip Brown right there. You hear asking repeatedly, what did I do? We are now seeing the body camera video from last October when a Homeland Security agent shot at Brown's vehicle. Police and federal agents say they pulled Brown over because of the illegal tint on his SUV windows and a missing front license plate right along Benning Road in Northeast. Police say Brown tried to speed off, strike officers, and that's when they fired shots. ICE says Agent Benedict Beber feared for his life. Brown says he was not trying to get away, but was fearful when officers started drawing their guns. His attorneys and community activists, they want an independent investigation and for council member Wendell Felder to do more.
Felder is the council member of Ward 7 where all of these shootings by federal agents of black people have occurred. Justin Nelson, Julian Bailey, U.S. Marshals murdered Julian Bailey and have yet to release a single iota of information. Where is Councilmember Felder? He's being silent. He's a coward.
All right, so I just got off the phone with Councilmember Felder. He says that is not true and mentioned his attendance at several rallies and hosting forums to help people interact with federal agents in D.C. Now, I do want to point out the video, that body-worn camera video we just saw, and Agent Beber's name were released because of the FAAR Act, emergency legislation passed by the D.C. Council after it was vetoed by Mayor Bowser. All right, so I want to talk about this a bit more with Ward 1 Council candidate Miguel Trindade Deramo. Miguel, good to see you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right, so what do you make of the FAAR Act here and this emergency legislation? Do you think it goes far enough in terms of what it's meant to tackle?
Does FAR go far enough? I see what you did there. You know, it's realistic within the ambit of what we can do as, you know, a federal district. And I think it pushes an envelope that's important to push. As an ANC commissioner, I was the founder, I'm the chairman of the ANC Home Rule Caucus, and we have been trying to push our leaders, the mayor, the council, to be a little more, let's say, to lean in a little more in terms of defending DC's autonomy and staking a little more space, you know, for what we can do to protect ourselves. I think something as straightforward as asking MPD to keep more detailed records makes a lot of sense. And you notice in the last back and forth that Council and MPD had around MPD's performance oversight hearing, Council was asking a lot of questions about how many times did MPD officers observe X, or how many times were they in the vicinity of Y. And MPD very frequently wrote back to say, we don't know because we don't track that information. So it seems like, you know, we did a little cart before the horse there, and the council should have asked NPD back in August to start tracking the things that the FAAR Act is now asking them to do. So it's a good catch up.
I mean, how significant is that though, when you have NPD leadership in front of council and they can't answer some of these basic questions about things that are occurring on the streets of DC impacting hundreds of thousands of residents?
Sure, it's a little bureaucratic, I guess. I mean, I understand that they're going to say, I'm not going to speak to that anecdotally. It's not something we're tracking, so I can't tell you. I think council should have anticipated that. And like I said, back in August, they should have said, all right, if the feds are going to be here on the streets, we want MPD to have its eyes open and giving us good reports regularly on what's going on. It's something it seems like they didn't think of until 6 months into the federal intervention.
Yeah, speaking of autonomy and your work there, this immigration crackdown, if you will, Ward 1 has been hit particularly hard here. President Trump continues to say, you know, his agents, these federal agents, are removing violent criminals off the streets. Data suggests otherwise. What are you seeing and what are you hearing? And also, how do you fight back?
Absolutely true. Ward 1 has been the epicenter. I think it's perhaps underappreciated just how heavily the hammer of federal intervention has fallen in Ward 1. That's Mount Pleasant, that's Columbia Heights, right? Especially hard. And, you know, let me just shout out the communities for the way that they rallied and continue to rally, right? This is sort of faded from the headlines now. We're in a different war and all this, you know, whatever. There's lots of circus happening around us. But the communities are still rallying to the defense of their neighbors, doing walking buses to get kids to school, doing grocery runs, raising thousands of dollars to help families stay alive through it. So, you know, let's take our hats off to our neighbors who are doing that work every single day. Yeah, of course, there's this discrepancy. Trump wants to claim that, you know, he's getting rid of the worst, but we know that most of them aren't, and we know that they've been profiling people who just happen to be speaking Spanish or speaking English with a Spanish accent. That has happened even here in Northwest DC, right? And there's a court case going right now of a guy lived in Maryland, but he was working in Northwest DC and was grabbed, you know, for no more suspicion other than that he looked Latino, right? And, you know, I'm Latino, and that offends me deeply. So, you know, it's not great. And the city's response, I think, left a lot to be desired.
Like what?
In that community.
What should be done?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the situation we're in as a federal district, right? Everyone understands that situation, but I think, you know, speaking for Latino community, it didn't feel like we had somebody who rallied to our side to say, no, we are going to keep you safe here in the city, right? It felt very much softly. People were going to hide under their desks, kind of, right, and wait until the storm passed. And that wasn't what I was looking for from city leadership in terms of just the basic act of solidarity. And, you know, I didn't see a lot of council members, I didn't see the mayor come out to Ward 1 and stand on a street corner with people and say, I'm keeping my eyes open too, to understand what's going on, and that'll inform my decision making. It did feel like Ward 1 was a little bit out in the cold on its own.
Oh, yeah. So what compelled you to run? I like to ask folks that. This is an interesting time in the district. It's a tough time. A lot of folks are going through different things. So why did you feel the need to step into this role, this desire to serve Ward 1 as a council member?
Well, it's a great segue from the previous answer. It really was the federal intervention that made up my mind. I entered this race a little bit later than some others, and it was because I had thought, it wasn't the time. I wasn't terribly interested or feeling ready. And then August shook all that up. And, I'm, like I said, Latino, raised by an immigrant family from Brazil, and worked in the immigration system for 7 years or so in the federal government. I was a Foreign Service officer when I first came to DC. And so watching all of that personally and professionally was very offensive to me. Now, of course, the DC Council isn't the primary way of, addressing immigration policy in the United States. But like I said, I didn't see anybody who was rising to the defense of the community. We've never had a Latino council member in DC's history, right? Very few council members who were able to speak Spanish. Council staff, often don't speak Spanish, and so there is a large community. That's the reason I moved to Ward 1 in the first place, was to be near that community, Mount Pleasant and Columbia Heights, and nobody was championing them in this difficult moment. And I thought, of course I have this interesting professional background in immigration. I've been an ANC commissioner. I'm the chairman of my ANC, so I understand the local issues too. And I think I understand the vacuum of leadership that we're experiencing in the ward. Yeah, as an ANC or as a commissioner there, you list your accomplishments and talk about what you've done in this city, which includes being one of the lead organizers of Initiative 83. It will be implemented during the June primary, June 16th. Why do you feel that was necessary, and how do you respond to those who are against it, who say this feels rushed? A lot of people don't understand how this process works. Necessary for several reasons. It's not necessarily one size fits all, right? Lots of jurisdictions or cities are playing around with ranked choice voting and how it works for them. And I think we did a good job of doing that for us. DC has a lot of talented people who compete for relatively few elected positions. We have 13 council members and a mayor. And there's a lot of political talent here, obviously. It's the capital. And so we often have 5, 10, 15 people running for an office, which usually means they split the vote so many ways that the winner comes away with 18, 21% of the vote. And to me, that's not fair in a democracy. As an office holder myself, I also understand the way that that structures the incentives in the system. If I get elected over and over with the same 20% base, I'm going to apply them with as many treats as I can to keep them happy, not 50% or more, right? I'm not forced to build a coalition under the old system. So what we love about this system, especially for DC, because there's so much talent and competition, which is good, right? Competition makes a better marketplace, better outcomes. We wanted this system to say, candidates have to build coalitions, win with actual majorities. Ranking is how you get there. You eliminate the weakest performing candidates until somebody gets more than 50%. And we're seeing it already. I mean, I'm in a 5-way race right now. Very copacetic, right? We all respect each other. We're competitors, but I don't say that we're opponents, and we're not ganging up on each other. It's not mudslinging, because we all understand we have an incentive to go after a competitor's second choice votes. Which I find fascinating, to say, hey, if I'm not your first choice, at least rank me as your second. Correct, right. So I have to go knock on every door. And if there's a sign for one of my competitors in the yard, I'm knocking on the door, because I'm going to say, hi, you may not have met me yet. I'm Miguel, let's talk. Why do you like this person? That's cool. What do you think about a number 2 rating? Here's some things that I have done that maybe appeal to you. It works, they think, oh, that's really cool. I just hadn't met you, and I put up a sign for the first candidate I met, or we're personal friends, or whatever it is. But there's a lot of openness among the voters to exploring that second choice ranking and welcoming me as a candidate to their doors and having a real conversation. Yeah, and speaking of those real conversations and what people want to hear, a big focus right now in the district is housing. A lot of folks we see it often, they're struggling to pay rent, they can't make payments in their homes. What do you do about that? We keep hearing these different scenarios, different excuses, but what do you think is the answer here? All of the above. Is my approach to housing. I think I'm the most pro-housing candidate in my race, and that's because we need so much of everything, so much more of everything, right? Affordable housing, yes. We have to make sure that people who live in Ward 1 now can stay in Ward 1, right? And we have a lot of tools to do that. They don't all work exceptionally well, but some of them do. TOPA, of course, is one that we love to talk about, right? This is a landmark law in DC. Doesn't always work well, it's very complicated to navigate, but when it works, it delivers, and it has kept people in the ward who otherwise would have been displaced. So we need to make it work very well. But we also just need to build more housing. Of all kinds, right? That can be affordable, subsidized, unsubsidized, and also
what do you do about it, though? What do you build? How do you build more homes in DC? A lot of folks see these cranes, apartment buildings going up. I mean,
Yeah, but they're all in Ward 6. Come over
That's
over
fair.
to 14th Street, you know? There's sort of a popular conception that it's the Height Act that keeps us from building more taller buildings, right, to fit more people in. And it's usually not the Height Act, in fact. Our zoning is often lower than the Height Act would allow. So DC's zoning is constraining our own growth.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to work on that to fit in more housing. I mean, but you know, speaking of cranes, I live on 14th Street. I look up and down. You know, the last time we put up a building, it was only 7 stories tall in a place that was zoned for more, right? That's complicated. There's zoning, there's the financing of the deal. You know, the developer has to make it make sense. But we need to make sure that we are opening the gates for taller buildings on 14th Street, a big commercial corridor. Same for U Street, right? We shouldn't be building low-slung buildings in places that have excellent transit connectivity, lots of jobs. More people should be able to live there.
Speaking of U Street here, you think of the juvenile curfew zones, that has been included, Ward 1. The council obviously decided not to take a vote on that as of yet. Extending the juvenile curfews expires next week. What do you make of that? Do you believe in these curfew zones, or do you think they should go away?
I'm really interested to understand what council's doing in this little period they gave themselves. You know, they kicked the can down the road a little bit, and I don't know what work they're doing in that interim. They might just, you know, be glad they don't have to take a tough vote, which would be very disappointing because they need to do a lot of work on the back end. We have been told a million times that the curfew is a Band-Aid. I don't know what's going on to heal the wound under the Band-Aid, if I can torture the metaphor a little bit. You know, the investment in youth, to me, it looks non-existent. I don't think we're doing anything differently now than we were before the curfew was instituted, right? To address youth, to attract youth, to have places to go, right? We talk about opening rec centers, we talk about having late night hype. I don't see any more substantial investment in that since before the curfew, so I don't know what we've been doing in all this time. You know, the mayor has a youth advisory council. I don't believe it's been meeting. I don't hear a lot of dialogue. I don't hear a lot of speaking with youth instead of at youth. I don't know what council members are doing really to get at the underlying issues. So to me, the Band-Aid seems a little bit illusory. Like we're just going to keep extending it and never really doing the work underneath, which I don't like.
Last question for you. As a council candidate, you will have to work with the city's next mayor. Based on the list you see so far, is there someone you're pushing for?
No, there isn't, which, you know, I'm hearing people make interesting noises, for sure, especially on these huge priorities.
But there's no one who excites you right now, who you're like, oh, I would love for them to serve as our next mayor.
We have good, strong talent, I think, competing. There are ways in which I'd be happy to work with, you know, many of the leading contenders. I think their relative strengths, you know, complement things that I would like to do in Ward 1. I've seen a really strong housing platform come out of Councilmember Louis George, and I'm really encouraged by that. I think the conversation on housing really is being driven forward, that we're moving the Overton window, I think, in this very campaign. We may not feel it happening under our feet, but the way that I've seen platforms evolve from one cycle ago, 2 years ago, to what candidates are saying now about upzoning, about density, is really exciting. So I hope that continues.
Miguel Trindade Deramo, Ward 1 Council candidate. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it.
All right, time now for my favorite segment, We the People of DC. We know the real heartbeat of this city is its people, and I want us to get to know our neighbors better, those going out of their way to lift us all up. So let's meet Christopher Bryce, who wants to make sure we do not forget the past.
Okay, so today, y'all, I'm uptown of Garfield Terrace. But did you know before the projects was here, it used to be a hospital that was built to treat people who needed care but couldn't afford it, regardless of their skin complexion?
Christopher, for starters, tell me about this. You call it a cultural blog on Instagram, and I understand it started with a conversation about the Queen's visit to DC back in the early 90s.
Yes. One day, I'm sitting around my neighborhood, and I'm talking to my friends, and I'm a person that be debating a lot. So like we'll be talking about something, and I take the conversation way left. So we was talking about, I was telling people like, man, you know, the Queen came around here. So me and my friend arguing about, he like, the Queen. I'm like, the Queen of what? I'm like, he said the Queen of Sheba. I'm like, man, no, the Queen of England. So I didn't have no solid proof. This is something my grandmother told me when I was young. Like, the Queen came around here, she met her, you know, she was hugging people in the neighborhood. She tried food out. So this is something my grandmother told me. My grandmother's a smart woman. She's not known for lying. So I believed her. So I'm arguing them down like she came around here, but I had no solid proof.
Like
So
according to grandma.
yeah, so according to my grandmother, so everybody laughing because it doesn't sound true. You telling the Queen came to Southeast in the 90s. So I went to the library the next day. I went to MLK library downtown the next day. I went to ask a person like, I need the son on the Queen coming to D. He was confused, like the Queen came to Southeast. So he was looking, I guess he asked a few people, he gave me a book. I forgot the name of the book, and it was right there. She came to Southeast in the 90s. Yeah. So I went back to showcase to everybody, like, yeah, this right here. They were shocked. So I'm like, man, matter of fact, I'm about to share this to Instagram. And it ended up doing like 40,000 views. And then I realized, like, you know, that was always my passion growing up, like history. You know, so I was like, man, that's what I'm gonna start doing. So
you're all over town, like just showing people hidden history and keeping them informed and letting them know what happened in various places. Why do you love history so much?
It's crazy because I went in foster care when I was real young, like 6 years old. And I was a bad child. I was bad. So my foster mother, who was extremely smart, she thought, like, she gave me her forms of punishment was making me stand in a corner. So on the weekends, on Friday, I had to stand in the corner from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. So she ended up, the only time I could sit down.
That's a long time.
Yes, that's a long time.
Wow.
And the only time I could sit down is when I finish a chapter and write the paragraph on it. So I started doing that. So to the point where I read this whole book. I'll read this whole book. And like, this is seriously from a 500 to 1,000 page book. I'm reading it in a day.
Wow.
So I'm getting off punishment fast. Like I to the point, like, she thought it was a punishment, but I started to enjoy it to the point that I'm reading super fast. I'm comprehending fast, and I'm writing a paragraph. And with that launched it to me doing other things to the point, I was like in the 7th grade reading the newspapers every day, like literally.
The newspapers every day in the 7th grade?
Every day. I read newspapers. To this day, I still read the newspapers every day. I still watch the news every day. And the crazy part about it, DC history is something I love to do, but I'm more like, my main thing is world history. Like the type of books I was reading was like books on like Che Guevara when I was young. I was reading books on Nelson Mandela before anybody knew who Nelson Mandela was in my grade. Like I was reading books on different people. So, and countries too. Like she'd give me a book. I might have to read a book on Trinidad. I might have to read a book on Ghana. I might have to read a book on Morocco. Like, and it's just something that I just started to love.
So we get why you love it now. So why do you find it important to share that knowledge of yours with other people?
Because like it's stuff that we haven't learned in school. See, with Black history, a lot of it is hidden. Like DC, like, and the crazy part about it, everything that I teach people on my page is not everything that I know. It's stuff that I might have heard of, and I want to go look it up. But a lot of stuff that I'm learning in the process. Like when I just did the burial grounds at Rhode Island Avenue Station, I didn't know that. And that's like, wow, like it's like this stuff is really hitting, and you can't even look it up on the internet. So a lot of things I think of, like I walk around the city, like I walk downtown, I walk and I just be thinking like, what was here first? I can't find it on the internet. I go to the library, either the Library of Congress or the MLK Library downtown, which the 4th floor is full of local history.
Yeah.
So you could look in these books and you could be like, huh? Like why? Like why I never heard of this? Like,
yeah, which is fascinating because we think everything is on the internet, and you're telling me that the library is still that place where you have to actually go to get the story.
Yes, because like, and the crazy part about it, like, even with that's why I'm about to start preserving history. Because if you look up videos from 20 years ago on YouTube, you can't even find them. So it's like I'm trying to preserve the history. A lot of stuff that 10 years from now, you're probably not going to be able to find none of this. And people do not like to go to the library. So
yeah. So you're doing some great work here, Christopher. I appreciate it.
And another thing, as you can see, my page has evolved. Like I started off just doing sit downs and just telling you the history to the point now that I'm going out to the actual location so it could give you a visual.
Yeah, yeah. No, it looks good. Everything looks good. You're teaching us a lot.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Christopher. Keep it
I
up.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Hey, got to check out his page. Giving us all a little lesson there. All right, so that does it for this week's edition of the DC Beat. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.